few days ago I had a call from the National Health Therapy Centre where I have been frequenting until I was until my therapist ended the session abruptly and didn't want to continue. And so for those of you that were following my therapy sessions, I had about 14 of them, and most of them are on this channel. When I stopped producing videos for YouTube for a few month period, I put them on Odyssey, and now I don't know whether I'll continue to upload them. I don't know what the market is, to be fair, but maybe you'd like to tell me. When I was asked to leave by my therapist, or not really asked to leave, she told me she wanted to finish the session. And I said, well, I don't want to finish the session. And she told me, no, Aaron, I really want to finish the session. And so I said to her, I said, well, seems we've both got some work to do then, doesn't it? Because she was acting somewhat emotional, because she considered that I was devaluing her professionalism and her variety of therapy, when I told her that not only was I not getting any benefit from what she was doing, au contraire, it seems to be having an adverse effect, because it was giving rise to thoughts that I hadn't contemplated in a long time. And then I was left with additional negative emotions towards my parents, and I said, well, your variety of therapy is supposed to be alleviating that. And so that's therapy for you, isn't it? Anyway, she discontinued our sessions, and so I very courteously and patiently waited for 1 whole month to get a letter from the institution written by her notifying me of the termination of our therapy sessions and the reasons why, and the next step for me to pursue within that institution or somewhere else. But I never received anything, not a single word. I never even received a courtesy telephone call from the receptionist. Like the therapist should have said to the receptionist, can you phone Mr. Berry and just tell him that I've not forgotten about him. I am going to be writing this report. I am going to be having a meeting with the other employees, staff members, therapists. We're going to be discussing how we can help you further, if indeed we can. And we'll let you know what's going on with that. I wasn't in receipt of anything. And so I then made a formal complaint. And then I got a letter back from the complaints team, and it said, oh yes, well, your therapist is on leave, and we think it's best that you give her time to come back, and then she can write to you all of your requests, your report, this and the other. And I said, okay, fine. But just for the record, could you add this, that she said she was going on leave because she had to have an operation, and I just said, well, you know, was she still at work for 1 week or 2 weeks after she terminated our sessions? Because if she was, then in my estimation she had more than enough time to at least have a word with the receptionist and ask her to place the call, or just to type out a few lines on an email. Because if she was still at work and she didn't do that, then that's failure on her behalf to show me any level of consideration, and she had a duty of care which she never fulfilled, and so I'm pursuing that. So after 6 weeks, I had a phone call from the centre, and it was in relation to whether I wanted to see the psychiatrist. And I said, well, yes, because I said to my therapist that I want a new meeting with the psychiatrist so we can discuss in finer details where we go from here. And so I thought that was, you know, what it was about, and things were starting to happen now because I'd made a complaint. But when I got to see the psychiatrist, it was a new psychiatrist. He wasn't aware at all that I had been having therapy there, and that my sessions were terminated, and that indeed I had even lodged a complaint. He wasn't aware of any of that. In all due respect, he said he was new and he's picking up the pieces. And because I'm still on the records of seeing a psychiatrist there, then he was, you know, dealing with the backlog of people just to see who still wants assistance and who doesn't. And so I explained to him the situation, and he said, well, I mean, all I can do is arrange for another meeting in about 6 weeks' time. I'm going to speak with your therapist, and I'm going to speak with the other members of staff. Then, if possible, I'll speak with your previous psychiatrist, and then liaise with the complaints team. So it's quite a lot to do. I said, okay, great, I look forward to that. And I suppose then by the time we meet next time, you'll have some sort of idea which the other members of the team have considered would be the best way forward for me to continue with therapy in or outside of your institution. And so that's where it's been left. So I said to my psychiatrists, and of course I've filmed this whole session, and I could put it up for you if you so request. But you know, if I just get one person or two people out of, let's say, 100 people watching the video, if I get 2 people requesting it, it isn't enough, and I'm just not going to bother. If you want to see the fucking video and you want to follow the thread, then you've got a fucking duty of care on your own behalf, even just to cater for what your requirements are. You've got to stop being this fucking idiot that can't even put a comment down in this day and age. So I said to the therapist, because she had no idea what I was talking about in relation to my spiritual awakening. She couldn't deal with that in any shape or form. The psychiatrists that I've spoken to, they had no idea how to deal with that in any shape or form. I even spoke to 3 chaplains during my period of incarceration, and they had no idea about the experiences that I've had, even though they'd been in that business, one of them for 35 years. All he did when I was conveying my experiences was like he was really making a point of like, I'm really, really bored and I'm not listening. Like this. And I said, excuse me, in all due respect, You seem to have glazed over. And he said, oh, I'm listening, I'm listening. But you just listen like that. And when I finished, there was no expression. He was absolutely embittered with somebody not spending 35 years of his life wasted in a position such as his, that the only spiritual encounter he could recall was one day when he was a youth. He was cycling around a couple of states in America, and on one particular day he was so tired of eating bologna, and he prayed to God and asked God to send him something else. And then that night he checked into a campsite, and he was setting up his tent, and someone came over and asked him if he wanted to eat roast beef that night, or barbecued beef or something, because this person had bought, you know, several kilos of it, and there's plenty to go around. And he said, thank you, God, and we ate beef for the next 3 days. That was his encounter of God. And I said to him, really? After 35 years, that's all you've got? Well, I just got up and walked out. I just got up and walked out. Shocking, pathetic. So this is what we encounter. You've got to travel long and hard to get anyone that can make any sense of any of these things, and that have put any level of study into it. And so one person I'm always quoting is the American psychologist William James. He wrote a whole book about these spiritual experiences called Variety of Spiritual Experiences, and that's renowned in philosophy and human psychology. And of course these days you've got lots of quality near-death experiences or spiritual encounters and things like that. Now with the advent of YouTube and videos, anyone that can articulate themselves, which aren't very many at all, you can go through an enormous amount of near-death experiences or spiritual encounters, and people just can't articulate themselves. They're just so unintelligent. They just can't paint the picture, you know. And so if any of you have listened to these stories, then you've got to plough through a whole bunch of shit before you get the odd glimmer into something decent. So I'm saying to this National Health Institution, I'm saying you don't have a facility for dealing with people who have spiritual awakening. And it is a very, very profound mental occurrence, and there's a whole myriad of ramifications which you are not considering, nor is the British government with their Department of Work and Pensions, who try to press gang everyone into slave labour, and they don't understand the ramifications of a spiritual awakening either. So it's my endeavour to see, within the best of my ability, that they do start to recognise what I'm speaking about, and they may at one stage even get a team together to do the research and to train people into recognising certain symptoms. And so that's one of my quests. That's what I'm going to be doing. So the next time I see my psychiatrist in about 6 weeks' time, I'm going to see what they have concluded. And I said to the psychiatrist, I said, look, I've you know, had friends and associates that have been to therapy on the National Health, and every time the session's over, they get a write-up of what was said and what they've been advised and things like that. That's perfectly normal. You know, that's what people want, because the vast majority of people, they don't remember what was really said, and they don't really know what direction they should be going in, because it wasn't that clear. But if it's stated that you conveyed this, and I suggested that, and you know, maybe here's a few web pages that you can look at for this sort of thing, you know, maybe that'll be useful, yeah. But in 16 hours I never got a single line written by my therapist, and she actually told me that it's not a given that she would write anything. And I went, are you serious? So for this past 16 hours, I've been conveying to you, you know, all of my stories, which you have been bored to tears with listening. You haven't compiled any notes of those with a view to writing down your report, which I can present then to other government agencies. And so that's one of the bones of contentions I'll be taking up at some sort of a complaints department, an appeal, or tribunal, or something like that, because what I'm convinced that they're going to try and do is they're going to say that unfortunately we don't have anybody qualified to be able to assist you in what you're looking for. However, here's a few web pages. I think they're going to try that one. So I'm going to say to them, I'm going to say, are you telling me that in the whole of the Leicestershire area, with your National Health Service therapeutic staff, that you don't have a single qualified Jungian psychologist which can assist people with the metaphysical? Are you telling me that? Well, if you are, I want you to put that in writing, and then I'll do my own research, and if it turns out that you're lying, well, I'll be back. And so I'm not going to be fobbed off by them. I'm going to get what I want, and I want a meeting with some so-called very important people, and I want to express how I haven't been remotely served by their institution, and I want to give them advice as to how they could better facilitate a certain sector of society with spiritual paranormal experiences. I mean, look, back in the day when Robert Monroe was having his out-of-body experiences, he searched high and low trying to get some information on that, and he couldn't find anything anywhere. So that's why he set up his own business, the Gateway, to be able to do this and investigate it. And how many people have had, you know, paranormal experiences? Maybe they've seen an apparition, or they've had voices in the head, you know, which wasn't pertaining to schizophrenia or anything like that. Maybe you've had spiritual, supernatural, phenomenological experiences that there's no point in telling anybody, because no one has been educated into the realm where this stuff is acceptable, because everyone's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And there's no science pertaining to it, to the study of it, which is going to state that there's serious ramifications to this stuff. You know, we can see stupid movies like Damien and things like that, and Poltergeist and whatnot. That's all you get. But what about a serious take on these phenomena? You know, I've seriously been spoken to by what I would consider to be Jesus, Yahweh, the devil, and I've been given symbolic signs by angels. And I'm not a religious fucking fanatic or freak. I'm not religious in any shape or form, and yet I've had these experiences. Where do we go when we've had those experiences? Who do we talk to? What clarification can we get? What assistance can we get? And then when these, you have a life transforming experience, like, you know, what I had, well, your silly trauma therapy isn't cutting it with me, because it's a whole broader spectrum of life. It's not just, oh, I'm traumatized, or I have flashbacks, or every time I hear a loud bang, or I shudder. Forget all your silly nonsense. No, that's just sticking a fucking band-aid on a bullet hole, and it's not doing anything for any fucker. So I would have thought in this day and age we should really start to get a little bit more sophisticated. So that's my endeavour, and I'll keep you updated with how that goes.